Welcome back, nerds. Fino here with a guide for Illya's Karakuri castle. Is your QP looking low? Mine sure is. Thankfully, Illya's castle is the latest lottery, and its treasures include pages, medals, chains, dragon fangs, evil bones, class gems, embers, mana prisms, friend points, and that all-important QP. You also get the event damage CE, Manner of Repose. This grants a single guts with a small heal amp. It's kinda terrible outside this event, but depending on your account's power level, you may need it to farm here. So combine your copies once you get to 5. To improve your drops, you'll want to look in the shop for Winner's Eye. This increases the number of castle passes you get, giving you more spins for the lotto. It's also notable for having a combo of starting charge and anti-riding damage, much like Britomart. Riding is a trait, by the way, not to be confused with the rider class, which Britomart also has bonus damage against, but this CE doesn't. For command codes, Artificial Kunoichi has anti-demonic damage with a small start ump. Pygmalion Chisel Out has crit damage and a heal, and Infant of the Snow's Comrade gives crit damage on an arts card. As for free quests, this event, like most tournament-themed lottos, has several fights that rotate out over its duration. The first 2 rotations last for around 3 days each, before the last week is occupied by round 3. Now I have a confession to make. I only really farmed the final rotation, and my archival footage reflects that, so buyer beware on that front. Round 1's 90+ is a 3-1-2 Saber arrangement with a 178k Munenori as the boss. These are quite doable numbers, especially if you're willing to run a third charger. If you have Zenobia, she should be good enough in that particular arrangement. Of course, a sufficiently strong Arcade can just brute force the entire thing. Otherwise, you can mix in a single target attacker just to deal with wave 2 and take some of that refund pressure off. Someone like Chloe also benefits from the event damage bonus. This node drops Brigand Testicles and Void's Dust. The 90++ is a 1-2-2 mixed set of Berserkers, an Assassin, a Foreigner, and an 820k Doman alter ego as the boss. This is a supremely unappetizing fight, though the presence of a bronze enemy in Wave 1 does open some insta-kill options. The combination of a Foreigner and alter ego in the same node is a huge problem for team building, and it makes a 6-slot setup extremely tight. Now normally you just downgrade to a 5-slot and run the event damage CE, but apparently the numbers in this event actually favor a 6-slot clear of the 90+ over a 5-slot clear of the 90++ in most cases. This is not normal. Now I'm not much of a numbers guy, so I'll refer you to Kadroth's video where he talks more about that, link in the description. But the point is that you shouldn't sweat this node unless you can do it efficiently. For the record, it drops Fragments of Twinkling Stars and Divine Leyline Spiritrons, but you'd have to be pretty low on both to put up with this bullshit. Round 2's 90+ is a 2-1-3 Archer node with a Foreigner in the final wave. It drops Chaos Claws and Gunpowder. Lucky for you, Mixa isn't the boss, so you should be able to brute force her with a decent AoE Lancer. Just don't let her NP because she'll instantly kill your VOD. The 90++ is a 3-2-1 Assassin arrangement featuring the Summer Valkyries. Interestingly, the health pool of this fight is spread out amongst all 3 waves. Each of the Valkyries has 350k health, so outputting consistent damage is key. This node drops Akuma Mirrors and Rainbow Thread Balls. This fight strikes me as the most easily doable of the Illya's Castle 90++ nodes, so I'd give it a crack to see if you can 6-slot it. Normally, this sort of flat curve monoculture favors Chen Gong, and because the Valkyries are divinities, you can combo a Santa Martha NP on turn 1 to give him a huge chunk of bonus damage. But most of the time you spend in this event will be in the final round. The 90+ is a 1-2-3 Assassin fight that drops Demonic Flame Lights and Crowns of Silvery Light. I'll bust your AoE like Arcade can ignore the formation. The 90++ is a 3-1-3 mixed class battle. You have Bronze Riders in Wave 1, a 340k Nitocris Altar in Wave 2, and a 620k Ozymandias in the final wave. There's another rider in the Archer class Arash's there too. This one drops Divine Wine and those ashes you farm in Trom. That alone is going to make it a tempting target for insane farmers. Interestingly, it's possible for a sufficiently strong Arcade to 6-slot this fight. The reason is that, with either Arcade starting charge append or the Winner's ICE maxed out, you can run both double Koyan and a backline Oberon. You hold Arcade's battery for turn 2 and instead charge her with one of your Koyans. None of the major enemies here are the human attribute, so you can hold off on Koyan's second skill, barring a need for crit stars. On turn 3 you swap Oberon in, and have him and Koyan Sky Up power up Arcade for a slam dunk. Otherwise, you may have better luck running a multi-core setup with a dedicated attacker to handle Nitocris. Unfortunately, classic BB doesn't play nice in these sorts of teams, so you likely have to draw on your strongest Berserker with a battery. For your AoE component, playing around with Summer Ibuki or your strongest assassin, probably Tezcat, will give you decent odds. Lastly, be aware that both Nitocris and Ozymandias are Heaven Attribute servants, meaning Neurobride's buff works against them if you can fit her on your team. They're also divine, so Santa Martha's back on the table too. Food for thought. Event bonuses are restrictive this time around. Kashin Koji's in her own tier with only 6 servants in tier 2. Chloe, regular Prisma Illya, Miyu, Danzo, Sichanai, and Kotaro. For some reason, Summer Illya gets the shaft. In place of exhibition quests this year, we get super obstacle quests. The difference is that these are more like puzzles in which you have to run one of your own servants with a pack of loner NPCs. You then need to change the order of them to move your preferred options to the front, because some of these NPCs have relevant special buffs. The first of these obstacles is blown off Nobbus. You're fighting 2 UFO Nobbus who are unkillable until they attack enough or get hit enough to turn off their guts. Once a Nobbu hits 0 stacks, they lose their guts and get stunned. If your units are at 0 stacks, they'll get finished off the next turn. Your units lose stacks as they attack too, just like the enemies, but the NPC Illya has a special ability to remove more per hit. You can exploit this with someone like Summer BB, if you happen to have her. Otherwise, just take your strongest caster and wing it with the damage CE. Next up is Yuyugafuchi. This one makes you fight a bunch of 1 HP golems. The gimmick here is that once you break their bar, they reveal something behind them. If you guess right, a relatively easy golem spawns and you just beat it to move on. If you guess wrong, Hassan surprise! Miyu gives you some protection when you choose the wrong golem, but I wouldn't sweat that too much. Just knowing the correct golems will give you an easy win. In round 1, any target is correct. In round 2, hit the top left golem. For round 3, target the bottom left. In round 4, go top left. You might be wondering about the one exuding ominous smoke. Well, that one's hiding a 3 million health first Hassan, so you may want to leave that particular surprise in its gift wrap. The third obstacle is Lie Down, Miss Jaguar Man. You're up against Taiga Fujimura. Quetzalcoatl is here too, but she's really just there to help you bully Taiga, so don't hassle her unless you want to make life more difficult for yourself. Taiga will change her body odor to a particular color, and you need to match it with a chain. Green is quick, blue is art, red is buster, and gray is brave. She follows this exact order on loop throughout the fight. If you do it right, Ketz will stun her and Taiga will lose her protection for a turn, letting you go in for big damage. Balancing your team to perform the various chains will make your life easier. I ran the NPC Danzo for quicks, NPC Chloe for arts, and her special damage buff, and OG Sabers since she can convert her cards into a buster brave chain. A shuffler like Bunny Toria may also come in handy if you happen to have her. By that same logic, you should also run the Mages Association uniform to reset a bad hand. For another strat, you can run a full quick frontline with Setanta. Do a quick chain to disable Taiga's protection and then blow her up while she's stunned on turn 2. He has anti-wild beast damage to make your life easier. Then repeat the process for her next bar. One weird thing about this fight is that sometimes Mighty Chains will qualify as quick, buster, or arts, but it doesn't seem consistent. If you're desperate, try putting the correct card type first and see what happens. The fourth obstacle is Bomb Crisis Strategy. This one revolves around managing a series of bomb debuffs. After a certain number of turns, ranging from 1 to 3, it'll blow up and kill whoever's holding it, unless they have guts. The NPC Kotaro has multiple guts, by the way. You pass it back and forth with attacks, but each character can only hold a single bomb. If you have a bomb and your target has a bomb, nothing happens. Gray bombs let you know how long the fuse is, red bombs don't. Unfortunately, bombs generally explode at the end of the opponent's turn, giving them final say on who's stuck with them. Sometimes they'll do you a solid and use a skill, but otherwise the scenario is working against you. That said, my footage is a few moments where the bomb explodes at the start of the enemy turn instead, so you should still try to get bombs off your servants and onto valid targets just in case. If you have anyone with a stun or other form of immobilization like Van Gogh, they might be able to cheese out kills on key targets. Otherwise, try and manually kill enemy bomb carriers to stop them from passing it back. For a last bit of cheese, consider running an insta-kill servant like Nidacris or Doman to remove some of the lower rarity foes, reducing your overall exposure to bombs. Finally, the giant at the end of the encounter can supposedly generate new bombs, so take him out first. Our penultimate obstacle is the Battle of AnMa. It's an AoE fight that replaces your Mystic Code. Your skills now do AoE damage in either a plus shape, horizontal line, or vertical line, centered on your target. But be aware that the plus sign doesn't actually hit the target at dead center. These do 5k damage and make the enemies weak to additional damage for a turn. These enemies also become taunted. Your cannons come up every turn, but you can only use one of them per turn, so make sure to get your money's worth. Ryder Mary starts on the field, so you'll want to dump as much damage into her as possible. I opted for Avenger Nidacris just to scythe down the accompanying trash mobs, by the way. Just be aware that the field doesn't always fill back up to 6 enemies right away, so there's going to be some variance on that front. Once you break Mary's bar, she transforms into Archer Ann and ejects herself back in line. She'll make your life miserable with a random NPC every turn, even while she's gone. Once she gets back on the field, she gains a shitload of buffs, so take her out as quickly as possible. As for the other enemies, Pirates purge your buffs and Spriggans get crits. Both reduce your NP gain, so don't rely on raw looping to get you out of trouble. Instead, you should rely on a combination of the NPC Danzo, who has increased attack, and your own 100% charges like Caster Nitocris, Avenger Nitocris, or Arquade if you happen to have them. The last obstacle is Phantom Crossroads, and it's a long one. It's like a simplified hybrid between Eliza Quest and the Morgan Exhibition Quest from the Town Lin Cup. You need to accumulate buffs to have a fighting chance against Chiron. When an obtainable buff is on screen, you only get the first one you qualify for. For this reason, you should focus on single target damage. Every other enemy retreats once you kill one. A simultaneous kill will result in you getting the rightmost buff. Instead of going through all the possible variations, I'm going to give you a route for a single target arts attacker. Draco is amazing for this if you have her. First up, you take Miu and Illya so you get arts chains as needed. In Wave 1, take out the archer to get an arts buff. In Wave 2, attack the rightmost soldier for an attack buff. Wave 3, blow up the caster for NP gain. Wave 4, Asclepius is off the menu. He'll fuck off before you gain control. Attack the blue snake to remove Chiron's arch resistance. Wave 5, attack the wolf for NP damage. Wave 6, kill the Archer Knight for an arts buff. He'll try to curse your unit, but Draco can no-sell it with her debuff immunity. In Wave 7, obliterate Achilles to remove Chiron's NP resistance. Wave 8, either kill the Manticore for NP damage or the Chimera for an almost full heal. This is the last heal in the fight, and it's the only one worth taking over a reset. Wave 9 gives you a card type buff that nerfs the 2 you didn't pick. Go for the blue Oni. Wave 10 is your showdown against Chiron, and he has some nasty tricks. First of all, he's altered his class affinities to match those of a shielder, so don't expect a Lancer to trivialize this. Secondly, his Noble Phantasm preemptively purchased defensive buffs, so I hope your Craft Essence Gust is still active. Draco can bludgeon him with her anti-standard servant damage. On break, Chiron gets attack, defense, and accelerated charge. Expect one of your servants to eat an NP unless you have a follow-up ready on turn 2. Unless you get supremely unlucky, your main attacker should have more than enough power to finish the job. Now let's talk about the challenge quest. This one's a doozy. You have to fight Britomart with multiple 5 million health bars. Now you only need to pop her twice before she retreats, but you're looking at a bit of a marathon. The idea is that Britomart has a weak point you need to destroy, which will force her into a degeneration state. So in this regard, she's like MHX Alter from the old Sweets Universe exhibition quest. This effect triggers at the start of her turn and can break her bar. To break a weak point, you need to accumulate a charge-up buff that you get when a servant goes a full turn without attacking. It stacks twice, and while you have a chance to break a weak spot with a single stack, you need 2 to guarantee success. However, attacking will remove all stacks you have, regardless of whether it does anything or not. So it's in your interest to have a servant on the field whose job is just to sit there and do nothing for a few turns every rotation. Sometimes card RNG will simply not let you keep charge-ups on multiple servants. That sucks, but you can mitigate this somewhat by running a number of servants with non-damaging Noble Phantasms. If you don't have Britomart, you don't lose your stacks, therefore having ways to play grab-ass is to your advantage. However, Britomart isn't going to make things easy on you. Her weak point is protected by a 5-hit shield, indicated by the permanent debuff resistance icon on her bar. At most, you can hit her 4 times in a single turn, so it'll take you at least 2 turns per successful pop. But be aware that her weakness is only exposed for a single turn. If you fail to break it, she'll just put another protection up. Britomart has accelerated charge, but she won't use her own Noble Phantasm. Instead, she has a pool of allies that she randomly selects from. Babbage does an AoE, Mecha Ellie Mark II is single target but purges defensive buffs after the hit, and Tamatomo is an AoE that ignores both defense and invuln. Lastly, there's Odysseus, whose presence in this fight kinda baffles me. He has a very low chance to appear, but he preemptively purges defensive buffs. This is an absolute calamity, not just because you'd be taking a buttload of damage, but because your team also needs to protect their weak points. As long as you can maintain a defense or damage reduction effect on yourself, and it can't come from a craft essence, you get that same resistance. If you're hit without this resistance, your weakness is destroyed and that servant is turned into a paperweight. They can still use their skills in Noble Phantasm, but they're locked out of their face cards and they take increased damage, meaning it's very hard to keep them on the field. I suspect Odysseus appearing isn't totally random, and it's tied to some currently unknown game state. Pure speculation on my part, but if you get him for whatever reason, then you should restart FGO immediately and fish for better RNG. There's not a good way of dealing with him, since the servants with reasonable purge resistance are generally quite inconvenient for this fight's other mechanics. Once you break her first bar, things become significantly more difficult. Not only does Britomart get 3 more weak points, all of which need to be broken, but she also gets a 10-hit barrier in place of the old 5-hit one. Lucky for you, this only happens the one time, and any subsequent barriers will be at their original 5-hit values. It's also worth noting that Britomart gets a temporary buff that lets her break your weak points on her basic attacks. It lasts for a finite amount of turns, so just keep your defensive buffs up. The hardest part of this fight for me was the sheer variance in Britomart's NP timings. You see, on top of her accelerated charge, she has a battery skill, and this can result in almost consecutive NPs. Because you're disincentivized from running the traditional Immortal team, your ability to carry a large number of Castoria stacks between turns is much more limited. To get around this, I turned to a particular crew. Castoria still needs to be there. Her anti-enforcement defense is how you stay safe, not only during Tametomo turns, but also from the attritional damage you're taking in this extremely long fight. The second key piece is Galahad Mash. She applies a defense and damage reduction combo on one of her skills, and another defense buff on Lord Camelot. These can maintain your baseline weak point protection, and also chain into Castoria's Round of Avalon for additional stacks of anti-enforcement defense. In an emergency, Mash can also use her invulnerability in combination with her own taunt to intercept Britomart's crits. The last piece of the puzzle is, get this, Thomas Edison. Crazy, right? But I realized something. A lot of the volatility in this fight comes from Britomart charging herself. You know what Edison has? A skill and NP seal combo on his Noble Phantasm. So as long as you can keep him fed, he can keep using it. This also locks Britomart out of her invuln, so using it to remove her last protection stack means she won't be able to prematurely shut the door on you. And there are a lot of little advantages that add up with Edison. World Faith Domination has a 3-turn attack and crit reduction debuff, which weakens the hits that get through. He has a targeted defense/cooldown reduction combo. Either you can use it to get your batteries back up, or give spot protection when mashes between NPs. His party charge generation lasts for a lengthy 5 turns and gives you a great deal of consistency. And he has a targeted overcharge buff to boost Castoria's performance. It's a near perfect fit for this fight, and because game mechanics are doing most of the damage, the class mismatch doesn't matter. If you have him, great. If not, then go with your bulkiest attacker that doesn't take bonus damage. For instance, Chevalier Daon has a 3-turn defense and taunt package along with a non-damaging Noble Phantasm, so she can take quite a bit of abuse. Eventually she gets purge resistance, but that's unfortunately a JP only upgrade at the moment. Barghest can give your team 3 hits of damage reduction while feasting on Britomart's more dangerous crit buffs. If all else fails and you're on my friends list, I'll put up my Edison for the duration of the event. Just turn off the event filter because he's going to Prisma Cosmos. On a final note, 5 million health break bars are extremely daunting, but it is possible to brute force this engagement in a couple of turns. It's extremely resource intensive, but with a godlike attacker and a large number of taunt CEs, you can eventually get Britomart into the kill range for an Oberon combo. It's well beyond the capabilities of most people watching this, but if you want to test your luck, it is possible. Thanks for watching, lads. Good luck on your farming. Like if you found this video helpful, subscribe for more, and come watch my twitch.tv/Finotaisen where I stream every week, 3 PM Pacific time. This week I'll be playing Immortal Redneck on Wednesday, Gal Guardians on Friday, Star Wars The Old Republic on Saturday, and then I'll be wrapping up with the FGO Best Serpent Contest on Sunday. See you there, lads.